Pay Day. He's joining us now from Washington. Senator, thanks very much.
Thank you for having me, Macon. Tell Joe happy birthday.
I will. He's talking to a bear. I don't really understand it. But anyhow, Senator, equal pay for women. Let's see. It's 2014, right, Nicole?
It is.
So it'll pass, right?
I sure hope it does. You know what?
What do you mean you hope it does?
Well, you know, I just hope that politics isn't played as usual, as you see so many times here in Washington. The bottom line is it's far past due that we pass this. I mean, you would think it was common sense. In West Virginia, Mika, over 80,000 households are led by women in West Virginia. 29,000 live at or below the poverty guidelines, the poverty levels. So my goodness, what it would do to increase the quality of life in my state of West Virginia would be tremendous. And I just don't believe there's any room for discrimination, any way, shape, or form in the workplace.
Right.
And
now,
equal pay is the easiest way to really bring that to equality.
I guess the argument is that transparency and other things that are being called for in these executive actions, as well as in the Paycheck Fairness Act, might provide a burden on businesses or create some other complications. I just can't think of any other way, though, to not put women who work in a very difficult position because their choices are left to not know what other people make and to think they might not make as much, or to find out and to be too frightened to sue.
Well, let me just say this. Let's just take our public offices, our Senate staffs and Congress staffs. That's all public. Every one of our employees can get online and find out what we're paying for certain jobs or who's getting paid what. If it's the same job description and they're doing exactly the same work and we're paying one more than the other, they have a right to come and say, Senator, what happened here? Why are we doing the same and not getting paid the same? So we try to look at classifications, what type of qualifications it takes to do the job that we want done. Right. We don't look at if it's female or male. Who can do the job the best and who's better qualified to do it? Then they get paid the same.
Senator, it's Donnie Deutsch.
And that can be done in the private sector also.
I'm sorry. Speaking of the private sector, Senator, it's Donnie Deutsch. I ran a company for years, thousands of people, and actually a lot of senior women. Here's the rub, in that I could not run a business if everybody's salary was transparent for all the obvious reasons. I couldn't manage people. And I can have two people in the same exact job title, but be paying one of them more because I think they're better. So how do you, I could have two senior vice president creative directors, male, female, either one. One could be making 160, one could be making 190 because they've been there longer, or I think they're working harder.
Well, those are all good reasons to pay them better.
But how do you, if you're just making it, you can never make it a pure apples-to-apples thing. So you can never, even if it's a man and a woman, and if the man is making $20,000 more than the woman, it may not be because,
or vice versa.
Or vice versa. So this is where you get into the slippery slope. Look, I'm a feminist, and you can't argue, to your point, from a common sense point of view, but from a practicality point of view, it's basically impossible.
Well, let's say if you have a personnel file. You keep a personnel file on each person. If I came in and complained to you, and you said, Joe, let me show you my personnel file on you, and the person you're complaining about makes $20,000 more. They've worked more, they produced more, here's their results, and here's your results, and this is the reason for the difference. I mean, that should hold up. I know everyone's concerned about litigation, but you know what? We've got to move forward. You can't hide behind litigation. You're afraid to do anything. If you do the right thing and you have the right records and your documents and you can provide those, they might not agree, but at least they'll think they was treated fair and you had a fair evaluation. Why did I get a bonus and you didn't get a bonus, or vice versa? Because I outperformed you. Because I had better results, and here's my sales record, here's my performance record. If they don't want to do the job and keep the records, then they're going to be subjected to litigation. So we'll have to get our act together. It's worth the effort to move this forward.
Nicole.
Well, I think, listen, the fact that this is complicated was crystallized by White House Press Secretary Jay Carney's inability to answer why White House staffers made, I think it was 82 cents on the dollar, women to men. But I wonder why there isn't, I think that you are someone really known for working across party lines, and I'm curious why the president's message was so harshly political yesterday, and whether you appreciate that or whether you think that makes this important mission more complicated.
Well, let's just look at the results by using that type of messaging. It hasn't worked.
Right.
It doesn't. It polarizes
So would you have preferred
people.
the president to have looked for some Republicans? There are some very strong Republican women in the Senate that I know you work with every day that could have stood alongside him yesterday and made his message less politically potent, perhaps, but more likely to be enacted in a policy. And if he really believes in the policy, it seems to me like that might have been a better idea than what he did.
You know, it would have been better, you think, you know, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of the president or for the president. He'll have to speak in his own words and his own actions there. But the bottom line was, if that would have been messaged and said, listen, we've all made mistakes. It doesn't make it right. Whether it was Democrat or Republican administration, we should have corrected this. This is our time. And I hope we would all work together to make sure that we correct this error that's been going on for far too long. You've got to reach out. You can't put people in a box and basically keep embarrassing them and think they're going to work with you. I said, this is the only place in my life that I've ever worked where you go every day to work and someone's trying to raise money against you, or you're supposed to raise money against them and beat them and then ask them on money to work with you and co-sponsor a bill. That doesn't work in West Virginia, and I know it doesn't work here because we've got proof it doesn't work.
Chuck. Right.
Hey, you know, Senator, when we were talking about this yesterday, and you know, let's be clear what yesterday was as much a political message as anything else, and this is an election year, and you can't help but look at this through the prism of that. But the other part of this issue on fair pay, to me, seems to be more about fair opportunity, and the opportunity gap, it seems to be, is what you guys aren't tackling. So, for instance, if you look at the Western world and you look at how working mothers access to child care in Germany, for instance, versus the United States, you know, you want to know why women might have a better opportunity at better pay and fairer pay in Germany than the United States, for instance. Well, it has to do with the fact that a working mother has more access to child care, say. You know, should that be the type of policies you guys should be tackling on this so that the opportunity gap gets closed? Because that is as much to do, I mean, this issue of fair pay goes to what Donnie said, you know, it's a lot of times it is an experience issue, or it is how much time you've been in the job. Well, how many working mothers do we know that maybe take 2 years off to deal with child care because maybe their career doesn't fit, isn't making it easy to be a working mother, and should that be what we're tackling? Because ultimately that is what will lead to more promotions.
Let me ask, how would anyone believe that we would tackle all of the different problems or the array of inequities and inequalities if we can't even at least say that you should get paid the same for doing the same job?
Well, we already do believe that. That is a principle. So the question is, how do you get more women? That's already in law. So the question is, how do you get it so that there are more women getting promoted?
Chuck, it's a law that's being systematically broken every day at every company in this country, almost.
I understand that, but well...
Come on.
You think it's being broken every day? That's a large charge. You're accusing every company in the...
No, but
I said almost. I'm sure there's some very women-centric companies and progressive companies like Donnie's that understands the value of a woman.
But Chuck's right, and you know this from your own career. When you have a baby and you are looking for a structure that lets you keep pace with men, it simply doesn't exist in this country.
It doesn't exist. I've watched it in the West Wing. It doesn't exist for working mothers in the West Wing in 2 administrations in a row. Essentially, the working mothers, I think, get unfairly, benignly punished. You see it at companies. You see it in this industry. You see it in a lot of industries. My point is, that to me is the biggest problem here, I think, and is among the biggest obstacles for women.
It's a sociological problem, because in reality, if you are a capitalistic system and you run a company, and if a mom or a dad takes 3 years off to raise their kids, their career is going to suffer. It's just, it is what it is. So it's
so why don't you make a more family-friendly work environment? Provide private child care. No, I'm just saying that is what look, there are other countries that are
in France. There's
more aggressive about
that. You know, time a child
what's a shame, Mika? What's a shame with all of this is listen to what's the dialogue going on in the studio and all of us talking about this. This issue has been politicized to this level. Yeah. This should be just common sense. It should be just something that naturally that we do. I was raised in a beautiful, loving, caring family. I was a privileged child because I had unconditional love. I had the strongest women around me. My mother, my grandmother, my aunts, and now I've got strong women. My wife, Gail, I have 2 daughters. I have 6 granddaughters. I want them to have that equal opportunity. I don't want them looking over their shoulder. I want them to be raising children and knowing the children will be loved and nurtured and be able to be all they want to be. That's what America should be all about. We should be setting the gold standard for that.
I agree with you completely, and I also agree with you, Chuck, to the extent that I know a lot of women have just given up because it's not worth it. They just can't do it all when they first have those kids, and it's just not worth it.
And
they do a lot more.
Yeah.
They do a lot more than the men do. I can tell you, when they have a job, they take care of the children, they take care of the home.
I know.
They're working overtime all the time.
We should get paid more. All right, Senator Joe Manchin, thank you very much. I agree with you. Chuck Todd,
Paycheck
thank you as
unfairness.
well.